So which iPad magazines are actually headed in the right direction?
It's an interesting question because actually I think the magazines that are doing the best job right now wouldn't be considered traditional magazines at all. I think the things that are magazine-like that I go to back again and again on a daily basis are Flipboard, Reader, Zeit, and these things they're really more like kind of glorified feed readers, or feed readers that are doing a good job of creating a really beautiful presentation layer. And I think these magazines do a good job of a lot of the type of interaction that digital media consumers expect. I don't think many mainstream magazines from the bigger publishing houses have quite reached that level of interactivity yet.
Right. So for those types of magazines from the big publishers, should that type of thing, if you're going to be doing a tablet magazine, not just an iPad magazine, but a tablet magazine, should that be built from the ground up? Should all of the design and all of the perspectives and the reference points should be built around the tablet?
It really depends on what you're trying to do in the magazine. I think if you want to have people have a really fluid interaction with the objects that are on the page, then you're getting towards something where you really need to build it in Cocoa, because that's the only way that you're going to get that level of sort of tactile interactivity that you can expect. But for most magazines, it's a really challenging question because building for the iPad, from ground up, means that every month you're splitting off a separate work stream and designing for that. So basically, it starts kind of doubling and tripling your team.
Yes, that's a big issue. Yeah, obviously. So, what are some of the most common flaws that we're seeing in iPad magazines? And by that, I mean things like file size, for example. I know that's been an issue that's popped up.
And the file size thing is a little bit challenging because ideally the people you want to be able to download something, get it on your iPad before you get on the plane and you lose precious Wi-Fi.
Right.
And so if you're sitting in the terminal and you're trying to download a 500 megabyte magazine, that is not exactly an ideal experience. But some other, I think, foibles of a lot of magazines right now, the iPad magazines, the first generation, it's kind of the same as their analog counterparts, and that's that all these stories, all the articles, are basically in a locked container that those stories can't really float free. They're not as discoverable as most web content is. And there's a lot of issues that go into that around digital rights management, copyright management. But magazines have traditionally they think of of themselves as kind of a locked book, of a complete discrete object. And ideally, something that is going to be really interactive or live well out on the web needs to be more kind of like an open book. Like if you took the cover of the magazine and you sort of turned it outside in so that people could discover and access these stories more effectively.
So last question I have for you, it plays into what you were just saying too. Should publishers be thinking in terms of building tablet editions and interactive web-based editions to take advantage of all those different opportunities?
Our feeling from the work that we've done over since the launch of the iPad is that tablets are really going to become a dominant new form, but iPad's not going to be the only one.
Right.
So the challenge here is coming up with a solution that's going to work across Apple's products, across HP's products, across Android tablets. And then pretty soon, back to the earlier point, you have a question of how many different versions of a magazine am I going to need to create. I think we admire a little bit more, and it's outside of the realm of magazines, but we admire sites like Vimeo that just made a bold decision of we're going to yank out all the flash, we're going to create a tablet-friendly version of our website that can play well anywhere. I think an ideal future state of magazines is kind of taking that same approach, creating a high-fidelity, interactive, tablet-friendly, web-based version of their magazine. And that is so basically, rather than a print magazine, a web magazine, and 5 different formats that you're doing for each tablet, do it once and create kind of that one unified document that can play out pretty well across all the different touch points.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.